Craig Jones, under 99 kilos, representing the B team out of Texas/Australia. So for the weight class, I originally believed it would just be me and Isaac in 88, because although obviously J-Rod's incredible, I thought it might have been too early in his career for him to win the 88 trials, especially US trials, as basically two and a half years of training. So when he won, it really took us by surprise. Obviously, Nicky Robb was able to win the trials pretty quick, but not to take anything away from the bigger guys. But generally speaking, it is a less difficult division the heavier you get. So for Jay to win 88 was kind of shocking and unexpected to us, and that left us with 3 guys in 88. And the worst part about it, and it's the same thing Atos is facing, 2 of their guys have to face first round, and that's horrible. So for me, it would have been Jay and Isaac first round, 2 guys first ever ADCCs training with each other to face first round. So obviously it's better for the team if I moved up, but selfishly I think I match up probably better with some of the heavier guys than I do with some of the guys in 88. So it kind of worked out well for all of us there. It's crazy. Some days I'll go to bed at 220, obviously full stomach and stuff. Other days I'll wake up as light as 214, 215. But for me, it's easy because it's just I've put on the size, but I actually do feel good now. Early on, I felt pretty bad with that extra weight, but now I feel pretty good. Well, I mean, it is unusual to not have a coach. I guess it's unusual for us because we had a coach, that transition. But I mean, really, say if we look at the 10th Planet crew that's going, Eddie Bravo is going to be there coaching, but a lot of the guys probably don't train with him that often, really. And especially some of the other teams and stuff, I imagine guys representing Alliance will have Fabio Gurgel, but a lot of those guys probably don't spend a ton of time down in Sao Paulo anymore. So I think still where we probably fit the mold more now than what we did under Danaher. Whereas I think Danaher sort of broke the mold as a full-time coach. Because even if you look at some of the Europeans and stuff, I wouldn't say Owen O'Flanagan has a coach, Owen Livesey has a coach. I wouldn't even say Ash Williams has a coach. So I think we probably just fit in the mold more into a standard jiu-jitsu team again. But yeah, obviously it is unusual. But I think for the most part, all of us are experienced enough to look at ADCC, know the skills we need to get good at to win it, know where we're weak, and focus on that. I think as long as you're self-disciplined, self-motivated, a coach isn't as important as what it seems. You know what I mean? The prep's done in the gym. Obviously a coach is important there, but we all do still watch each other roll. I watch my rounds back on the security tape. So once upon a time I had John watching me roll live, addressing problems in the moment. Now I just watch the security camera footage and try to work out what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, self-analyze. But I think as long as you're analyzing your own rolling, you are going to be in a position where not having a guy watching you all the time isn't going to be as sort of big a deficit there. Yeah, I mean, just about everyone's done ADCC except for Isaac and J-Rod. But obviously it would be a big one for them because it's going to be 12,000 fans, you know? Even the last ADCC felt pretty intense with the amount of fans that were at that event. So that'd be a big adjustment. But yeah, even for me in 2017, me and Lachlan Giles graded me, but I would definitely say we were more of training partners than a typical coach-student relationship. A collaborative effort of problem solving rather than him being do this, do this, do this. Yeah, that was an interesting one because I won ADCC trials 2014, did ADCC in Brazil 2015, but I was of the opinion in my current position at that time, I was training in Adelaide. I think I had a purple belt training. I had no training partner, so I was oh, it's just a free vacation to Brazil. Homolo beat me up, but then around that time I started traveling internationally more and got to know some of these guys and sort of broke the spell of these guys are unbeatable, they're different to the average person, you know what I mean? I broke that spell by spending time with them. So then by the time I trained and re-qualified for ADCC 2017, I went in with a more realistic attitude. I'm never gonna be the guy that goes in I'm gonna win, I'm gonna kill everyone, you know what I mean? I feel like people act like that. It's always a front, it's for them, you know? I try to approach it from a realistic perspective because if I keep my perspective realistic, I'll put in all the work. But if I think I'm just better than these people, I probably won't train as hard because I already feel better than these people. But then for 2017, I drew Leandro Low first round, and I had to believe that him as a gi guy had weaknesses in no gi. I had to believe that. I had to convince myself of that. Despite him having previously beaten Gordon Ryan, which sort of was contrary to that evidence. You know what I mean? He'd already faced a no-gi purist and beaten him. But it was a weird match too, where Leandro probably would have been DQ'd had it been a real ADCC match, a lot of backing up, and he was able to win by takedowns. But yeah, I looked at it and I was like, I should be able to do things to him he's not seen before. And I thought, as long as I had the confidence to go after him, I could beat him. So I think I was like a plus 5,000 betting underdog, but I still believed, I truly believed it was a winnable match. You know, like I hit a point in my career where I believe a lot of the matches are winnable. You just need the correct approach and the confidence. You know what I mean? It's one thing to look at a guy and be like, oh, I can beat him. It's another thing to really treat that guy like you can beat him. That was for all the non-Brazilian Americans. I felt like were really, because they were the only ones doing well. So I think everyone got behind me. Americans, even to a certain extent, everyone loves underdog story, but I guess it was good to break the mold of who usually wins. So I think it was an important, it shattered the unbreakable image of some of these guys in that tournament, which I think has sort of paid off in the long run, because obviously Lachlan Giles was able to replicate that sort of special moment later. And I think as long as you're realistic and have the self-belief that you can beat these guys with the right strategy, I think, yeah, definitely. I go into this one, so to be honest, for the ADCC 2017, I went into that one dead broke. Like I was your typical jiu-jitsu guy making $0. I was teaching 4 or 5, 6 a.m. classes a week at Lachlan Giles gym, lived in a shitty apartment, and I was kind of honestly getting over it at that point. And I put a lot on ADCC 2017 where I said, it's now or never. You know what I mean? Like I have a chance to make a splash now, or I could look to open an academy, get a bit more of a stable income, increase my quality of life. So it was really like a now or never moment. And I'm 31 now, but obviously age plays a factor. Some guys can compete till they're 40. You know what I mean? Like obviously you got Cyborg, Wagner. I don't think I'll be that guy. I don't think I want to inflict that much punishment on my body, but I look at this one almost like you never know when it could be your last one. You know, like I could compete well at this one a year from now. My body could start breaking down, could take a ACL injury, you know? So like, I look at this one at my age, sort of like another now or never moment, you know? Like, I believe I should have won last year. I was in a perfect position to win, that in 2019. But this one as well, I feel sort of similar energy to 2017 for this event here. So I'm sort of going in with that make or break attitude, you know? Because again, you should treat realistically, you should treat them all like it could be your last one. Because say you're a US trials winner. The trials alone is so hard to win. The trials is incredibly difficult to win. So if you're lucky enough to win it once, it could be your only ADCC, even if you're a young guy. So I feel like, yeah, if you channel that energy, that's the sort of energy I'm channeling for this one. I mean, if I win it, I probably won't be bothered doing any other ones in the future. I'll probably just enjoy life. That was great. Jay, most of the matches you thought going in he might lose, and then early in most of the matches you thought he was about to lose. So in that sense, Jay's probably one of the most exciting competitors ever, because he just digs himself out of a hole and fights through it. But another crazy thing about Jay is his escapes aren't necessarily even energy efficient. Like if someone takes mount on me, and if I reacted like Jay reacts, which is basically freaking out, I might get out, but I'll be exhausted. But Jay has this incredible energy where he'll do this crazy movement to escape a bad position, and he's still fresh for the rest of the rounds, for the rest of the match and stuff, which is like insane. So what it creates is a visual of like, this guy's fighting for his life and he pulls it out in these clutch moments, you know what I mean? So that was super exciting, super stressful, obviously. But yeah, he just kept doing it. Every match he was in a bad position, gets out, wins. So I think, obviously he just lost to Jacob Couch, but Jacob Couch played it smart. if not a bit too conservative, because it's like he held Jay and didn't try to finish him for the whole match. But it's smart because Jay's probably most dangerous in those last 3 minutes. But at the same time, it's like, oh, it kind of was a boring match in the end. But you know, like, but that's probably the way to play it against Jay. I think like even at this ADCC, Jay might be losing for 9 minutes. He might be in a terrible position. But he's one of the few guys that if he gets out with a minute to go, he could pull it off. You know what I mean? A lot of guys don't have that ability. So again, yeah, in terms of coaching Jay, super stressful. You'd rather your guy just go out and dominate, but it makes for a much better sort of marketing for him as an athlete, the way he competes. And obviously he's got a pretty big Instagram following just because some of the highlight reels he pulled off. It's harder for me to predict who I'm gonna face because obviously the top seeds are purely based on ADCC performance, but I don't exactly know how Mo Base's weight division changes. So like, obviously Kainan won over 99. He's gonna be #1 seed in under 99. He's made the shift, but how does a silver medal play into that? How do you weight my 88 kilo silver medal with Yuri Samo's 2015, 2017 gold medals? So it's real difficult for me to analyze. It would have been easier for me to analyze the 88 because it would have been Denise first seed, me second seed. And 88's a bit easier to figure out the bracket because you got 3 Atos guys, you got 2 B team guys. I think there's even 2 Alliance guys. So it's like you could kind of figure it out. But for me, for 99, I don't try to think too much about who I'm gonna have first round. I just look at who are the better guys in the division and assume I'm gonna have to beat them at some point to get to the gold. So then I would just look at Lovato, Yuri, Marigali, and obviously Kainan. So I just look at it like, I have to have the skills to beat any of those guys, whether it's first round or 4th round. But obviously, definitely, I think Kainan head and shoulders above the rest in terms of skill, youth, and just general sort of level of threat. He is a good wrestler, he is a good submission guy. He's pretty defensively sound. So I think obviously he's the one to watch in that division. But again, you can't predict too much because ADCC is the moment, the time for upsets. So, I mean, another guy in there from New Wave, Luke, looks really good. Obviously Luke doesn't make a lot of noise on social media, doesn't get a ton of attention, but he's a guy that you're like, oh, he could beat some of these really tough guys in the division. So it's really hard to predict how it's gonna go. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think heel hooks were always easy to defend. You know what I mean? As long as you can hide the heel, as long as you can recognize danger and turn the right direction, there's a good chance even against a strong leg locker, you're gonna escape the position. The problem was early days, it was the boogeyman, so people were so scared, they would panic in those positions. And in any part of jiu-jitsu, if you panic, the likelihood you're gonna get submitted is gonna increase. So I think they were just ultra effective because people were super scared. And now it's just part of the game. So I think risk to reward ratio, it doesn't really favor the leg locker too much. Because in my opinion, someone attacks my legs, I find it quite easy to escape. And then another layer is ours, obviously you've got counter back takes too. So it is a high risk. That being said, they're still super effective because there are still people out there that have neglected that part of their game. So I think in that sense, they do have their place, but just against the right opponents. But in terms of wrestling, I think obviously as we go up in division, the guards get worse. The level of comfort for the big guys on bottom. Obviously there's guys like Big Dan. Big Dan's like 300 pounds, super flexible, super dangerous guard. That's an anomaly. That's contrary to the standard big guy. Most big guys don't want to be on bottom. So generally speaking, if a big guy's on bottom, you can gas him out pretty quick. So I think wrestling plays a factor, an even bigger factor as we go up in weight, because guys start to, you put them on the back, they generally aren't too good at defending themselves from there. I have an unannounced super fight for November 11th, but I can't announce it yet. But yeah, I'll get back out there, compete again. That's weird. But no firm plans. I'll be back to Australia for a bit. But really, I mean, the future plans are based on how ADCC goes. You know, if I win ADCC, delete social media right off into the sunset, I might never be seen again. But obviously, again, depends on what happens, you know.